Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Okay, I think we're good. I've been having trouble with this StreamYard, you guys. Bear with me. I think we're good. Welcome to my channel, the Marita Minutes. Tonight I want to talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is episode 27, season 6. I think it's called Peace Before the Stormy. So it starts off with Kimmy and Maurice, and they're at their place of business. As I guess, is it Maurice's brother Micah is doing the renovations, and he's evidently behind, and Kimmy's not at all happy. And so she goes into, we need to do this, we need to do that. She's running down a list, and her thing is, well, it really looks nice. And Maurice said, "There's a but coming." And her thing is, we're really late. We're really late because they're behind schedule as far as being, finished with these renovations. But from the outside, it really did look nice. I like I'm really into the black trim and the windows now, even though they say that's an architecture thing. It's not really an option when you go buy windows. I guess it is, might be now, but it's like an architect type thing. Anyway, I like that look. Anywho, the place does look nice. And her and Maurice sit down to discuss, you know, where when they first met, he used to like doing improvements and fixing things. And since they've been married, he don't like to do that anymore. And her thing was, when we got married, I thought I would never have anything broke in my house. I would have somebody to fix without me even have to ask. And his thing, well, you do know I'm a lawyer. Like, like that's his reason for everything. You do know I'm a lawyer. Have we seen any clients from him? I'm just asking. We see everybody else doing their business. We seen Kimmy in her office. We see Maurice stopping by like his sister's office because they still do the credit one thing, I think, right? And but I don't ever see him talking to a client. Like, don't mean to switch gears here for a minute, but you know how I'm married to medicine? We see them talking to patients. They're not divulging anything private, but you do see them in their work environment. Why can't we see Maurice in his work environment? We see Mel in her work environment. We see even Martell in his pretend work environment. No, I'm just joking. We see him doing something. At least he's standing at a site with that he's, building the, house that he's building. We see Tisha and Maurice standing in the same office space that they're supposed to be putting together but hasn't had any progress. We see them in their different office sites. We see uh Stormy. We see Stormy in her warehouse. But I'm not seeing one client of Maurice's. Not one. Excuse me, y'all. Oh no, I have dry eyes, so there we go. So, anywho, his thing is he's a lawyer, and Kimmy was like, what does a lawyer have to do with anything? Anyway, long story short, his thing was, she said, I thought she was like, I thought you wanted to help me. You act like you don't want to help. His thing was, give me a list and I'll get it taken care of. He's just gonna pay somebody to do it. He still ain't gonna do it because I guess being a lawyer, you don't have to get your hands dirty anymore. I'm assuming that's where he's going with it. I don't know. So they move on to Kimmy's conversation moves on to her and Tisha going to the vag cleanse or whatever it's called, and how Tisha was taking a pregnancy test. And Maurice said, "What? A pregnancy test?" And her thing is, yeah. It's like, even though Marceau had a whole vasectomy, she's taking a vasectomy test, a pregnancy test. But what I'm surprised at with Kimmy, now, granted, the chances of Tisha being pregnant after Marceau having a vasectomy, and I think Maurice said it's been about 4 years, are truly and truly slim. If it was going to happen, it would probably happen in the first year, I would say, if it wasn't all the way. sealed or whatever the vasectomy does, right? They do reverse or if he hasn't had them, not to get real graphic, but having stuff burnt or whatever. But if it was just tied or, maybe it could unravel or whatever, things happen. Things have happened. And Kimmy being a nurse, you would think that she'd kind of think about that. Not to say that what she's saying is, not wrong. It wasn't wrong, but clearly vasectomies, most most of them, do work 100%. But there are some, and there are stats, they're low, but it could happen. But 9 times out of 10, that was what Tisha wanted to do to try to explain her weight gain. She has gained weight, and I've noticed it in this season, even in her confessionals. She's gained weight, and it's probably stress. More than likely, it's probably stress because Marcel is enough to stress you out, and then that on top of everything else that's going on in their, business life with the uh with all the stuff that's going on in the background, them being in court, their progress on their Scott Manor, everything has taken a toll probably on Tisha, and she's wearing it. That's what it seems to me. I could be wrong. So her thing was she wanted to take a test. So she explains to Maurice that, her thing was, I don't know why she was taking a test, but she did and came out negative or whatever. But her thing was, what is Marceau going to think finding out that she took this test? Like, he ain't going to be too pleased or whatever. So they move on to um, Maurice being kind of shady. He said, you know what Tisha needs to do? She needs to go to Africa alone. And they both crack up. Like, that was kind of shady and dirty. You know your brother. Why would you even make that comment? Why? He said, and don't come back pregnant. Yeah. Maurice, that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool at all. That's all I got to say on that note. So, the next scene is Stormy and Tisha, and they meet up at I guess their office building for Tisha, because she said that's going to be her office when they finally get it done. It don't look like any progress has gone on with this office building. It looks like it's in the same state it was when her and Marceau met there to film. That's what it looks like. I could be wrong. Or maybe they filmed this the next day. I don't know. Anywho, her and Stormy met up. They were talking about, what they've been up to. And, Tisha has been saying, she's just trying to get things in order and get her office put together. And, she's just feeling overwhelmed, that sounds like. And however, she did go away. She let her know that she had gone away with her college friends to Vegas just for a little vacation. While she was in Vegas, Marceau was in Colombia. What? So Stormy was like, why did Marcel go to Colombia? Oh, he went with his friends. I guess it was a bachelor party, and they hung out in Colombia. And so Stormy says, well, you do know what Colombia is known for. He says, that's like the brothel. They are known for their brothels, a lot of prostitutes. And Tisha was like, really? Is it? Because she was like, Marceau came back and said, we got to go back there. We're going to make plans, blah, 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 blah. But that might have been just something that he told her, like, yeah, we need to go. He don't have no intentions of going with her to New Columbia. I honestly remember in one of the president administrations, I can't remember, was it Obama, Clinton? One of them. And I remember the Secret Service. They had gone down there with the president that was in office then. I can't remember exactly who. And I remember the Secret Service getting in trouble in Colombia because of their ex-workers down there. So obviously there's something to that. So when she said it, it clicked, and I remembered that and being in the news. So yeah, Marcel. So she said, well, he had a good time. And Stormy said, yeah, Betty did. We all know Marcel had a good time because Marcel gets down, allegedly. So they continue to have their conversation, and Stormy brings up, the website and about, how she didn't think it was a good look for Tisha. And Tisha's like, it wasn't a bad look for me. It wasn't my fault. She said it was the web designer, and I called him up, laid him out, and I told I probably won't use his services anymore. But her thing was she was putting blame on the web designer. And Stormy's like, no, it was a bad look. She said it was even a bad look for me. She said it had people making videos and commentating on, and throwing my brand under the bus, and she said it was a bad look for the both of us. And, she said, don't you think you owe me an apology? And Tisha was like, no, because I didn't do it. At that moment, I felt some way about what Tisha was saying as well, because my thing is just own it. It was your website, whether it didn't do anything to sales for the girls, for their brand. How did the web designer get Stormy's Canvas Beauty information? Did you give it to him? Was he the same one that worked on Stormy's website? Why wouldn't he have tailored it to Mila and Macy's brand? Like, that's like copy and paste 101. When you copy and paste, you want to make sure that you tailor whatever you're copy and pasting to whatever it's supposed to be geared to. So, and even if he did miss it, let's just say he did miss it, it's still your website. You didn't look at it. You just said, okay, let it go live, and didn't even bother looking at it anymore. I think that's very sloppy. Very sloppy. Like, this is your brand. This is your girl's brand. You want them to look a certain way. And like, I agree 100% totally with Stormy. That was a bad look for the both of you. And I didn't like that Tisha didn't own it. Her thing was, she said, and then even her confessional, she said, oh, apology. We ain't doing that. What? I feel like Tisha has found her voice. I like Tisha being more boisterous now versus being that little timid deer in headlights look that she used to give us way in the beginning. But now I feel like she's found her voice, but she's found it with the wrong people. Like, she hasn't really found it with Marceau yet, but she's found it with everybody else, and that's not a good look either. So Stormy wasn't really pleased about that way that conversation went, but she still wanted to go through with the double date with her and Courtney and Tisha and Marceau. And Tisha's like, you sure Courtney wants to go? She said, oh yeah, he'll go. No, it's no problem. We can still, move forward with the double date. We, and get together, hash some things out. So the next scene are the Fletchers. So I think I've made myself clear about the Fletchers being on this show. I like the Fletchers, both of them. However, I wanted to keep them in the light that we were used to seeing them in, as far as like the voice of reason. And I still say that now. When Daddy Chris, came up to Nell and let her know what was going on in the conversation that he had with their son, Chris, Nell was still kind of going off like that little ninja need to just get up off his behind and do what he need to do. Her thing was, I ain't trying to hear that stuff. Initially, that's how she was coming at him, because he was expressing to her like, this is not what I saw. He looks like he might be depressed. He's going out in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, just going places to sit. And her thing is like, what? That ain't nothing but trouble. Blah blah blah. But she's still coming at him like that's some bull crap. That ain't nothing but trouble. So she wasn't believing the fact that little Chris, not little Chris, but the son Chris was going through anything. And her thing is, well, and then so when as Daddy Chris, Big Chris, kept going on with the conversation, he let her know. He was like, well, I think he might need some help. He wants to go to counseling and all this kind of stuff. And I think Nell was kind of like, okay. And then when she realized that he was feeling some way about his son saying things that was going on with him, then she kind of softened it up. But I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want to go into their business. I didn't care about their family dynamic. Nobody needs to know what's going on in your household. I think somebody had to be the voice of reason for the show. And I felt like they were the couple to do it. But obviously, that's not the way they wanted to roll. So this is what we get. So her thing was, okay, well, whatever you decide to do, I'm there to support you. Not there to support her son. She said, I ain't gonna even, she said her thing was she was just trying to make her son Chris accountable. And she said she's not gonna bring up the money thing anymore. And I think that was the whole goal. He got what he wanted. And I feel like if he was shamming them about the money, he got his way through his daddy. And I think that's what Nell originally was feeling like he was trying to do. And yeah. So 1 for son Chris, 0 for Daddy Chris and Nell. So the next scene is Letitia, Kimmy, and Mel. They are getting pedicures. And Kimmy is pulling these 2 women together just so they can, work on their friendship, nurture it, and then bring up a few things in the process. So I think they start talking about, or they say, they asked Mel, they said, you've been doing a lot of things lately. And she said, yeah, well, like what? And they bring up her name change ceremony. And Kimmy seemed like she might have been a little offended that she wasn't invited. So Mel explained to her, well, I didn't, if I invited you, I had to invite Maurice. If I invited Letitia, I had to invite Marceau. And they're still friends with Martell and they're all close. And she said, and it would have been, yeah, we went to the name change and it would have been a joke, and she said it wasn't that. She said, and I didn't want that. And I have to commend Mel. She did the right thing. She did the right thing because you see how Martell acted when the Fletchers were going. He ain't like that. So can you imagine, his boys were going. Everybody's gonna be there but him. And this whole ceremony was about being detached from him. First of all, he's embarrassed because he thought that she was going to continue to have his name. And that bothers him. That bothers him to the umpteenth degree that Mel has detached herself from him solely. Her thing was, my kids will always be, a part of him and they'll have the whole name. That doesn't bother me. She said, but I didn't want to be attached to that. And I'm like, Kimmy don't understand that. Because then she went into this whole, thing about stereotypical things about when you see a Black woman or African Americans with their kids, they're stereotypical. Do they have the last name? I don't know. When I look at women, I don't look this. I don't. If they have like 10 children, I don't. That's not the first thing that comes to my mind. Like, do they all have the same last name? Do they all have the same daddy? I don't even care. That's not on my mind. The only time that comes into play is when you get ready to put them into school. However, um, her kids are already established. I'm sure if there is, I mean, they have birth certificates and they'll have who the mother is on there or whatever. And it's like, so it's not an issue. You can get around that, but her thing is I didn't want to be attached to it anymore. And she said the kids know what it is. And the older ones are probably more mature to kind of understand that. But the young, I mean, sugar mama, she don't know what's going on like that. But I mean, she will. Anywho, so they move on from that, and I think, Kimmy's feelings was still a little hurt, and that she wasn't a part of the intimate group, the close friend group, but hopefully she understood, if I invited you, I had to invite your husband, and she didn't want your husband there. She didn't want the husbands there. And technically, she didn't want them there either because she said it's never been a line drawn on whether or not they support her or not. And I agree with that because they're back and forth and being very shady about their whole situation from day one. So Mel made the right decision. They're not coming. They wouldn't have came to mine either. So next, they start talking about, well, Kimmy brings up, well, you know, or is it Tisha that brings up the fact that, she mentioned to Kimmy about her having an attitude at the expo, what you call it, lessons learned type meeting or whatever. And her thing was my attitude, or I guess how she ever came off to Mel was not directed at her. And Mel says, well, I don't know. She said, because when everybody else was saying something, you were kind of pretty quiet. As soon as I mentioned, about, talking about the being more organized with the, getting everything started and off the ground, you made it quite clear that that's not why we were there. And, it was a little, it was a little attitude behind it. I remember hearing it because I was like, whoa, like what is going on? Like, and I think what happened, and I'm just going based on what I saw, once she found out that Marceau had lunch with Melody, unbeknownst to her, she had an attitude about that. And it carried over into when Mel talked about, well, we could have been more organized in the beginning, blah, 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 blah. And I think, me personally, that's what I think. My opinion, that's where it stemmed from. So Tisha might be telling a little fib, just a little one. Anywho, so then Kimmy goes, well, are you okay now, y'all? She said, yeah, we're fine. We don't have any issues or whatever. She said, have y'all, like, what about on social media? Y'all unblocked? And both of them kind of like, nah, ain't nobody doing all that. Because her in Mel's confessional, she said her and Letitia have blocked so many people that um they would have to go through so many names to unblock each other. And she said they're okay in real life. So that's social media. It's not that serious. And so they, come to a happy medium. So Kimmy says, well, I think I'm going to start doing more of these so we can just keep, everything on the up and up. And so we can still, they do have to nurture their friendship if that's what they want to do. But they got to stop being shady towards Mel. She is the one that put them on the map, so to speak. So give the woman her props, her flowers while she can smell them. Right? The next segment is Stormy and Courtney, and they are at the pool hall, I guess, and they're going to meet up with Tisha and Marcel for their double date. And Stormy mentions that they're already an hour and a half late, which is rude. But I feel like when they are late like that, it's more so probably because Tisha has to convince Marcel to go, or production probably had to get involved and said, you got to go. They're waiting for you. So Marcel gives me the impression that he really didn't want to be there. Like he didn't want to film with them or whatever. But long story short, they get there and Courtney and Stormy are already playing pool. And so, they I don't know how they started talking about it. I can't remember. This is like this last segment, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but I do know that Marceau says something about there was a lot of tension at the backyard barbecue. And I think someone says, "Where?" And she said, at the backyard barbecue was a lot of tension. And he said, and I was told that Courtney was mad at me. So Courtney was like, "Man, I'm not mad at you." He was like, I don't have a problem with you. He said, "But I didn't like how you came at me at the meeting, at the expo meeting, when you called me Mr. Steele." And he said, "That's not my last name." He said, "That's something that children do." And so Marceau said, "Well, you had a problem with me calling you Mr. Steele, but you didn't have a problem with your wife calling me a B." And Courtney was kind of looked down and was like, "No, I didn't have a problem with that." He said, "I didn't have a problem with that." And then Stormy tried to explain, like, "Well, it doesn't make sense." He said, "I was the one that was calling you that, and you agreed with me. You said you were a big one." And she said, "Why didn't you give me your feelings then and come back at me?" He was like, "I wasn't going to come back at you. I was going to throw my dig at Courtney." He said, "I'm not going to come back at you because that would have sparked, obviously we know that would have sparked something else. If he had came at Stormy wrong, Courtney was not going to sit there and let that happen. Okay." You saw what happened when she went back to him and told him about, the $100 that he asked for. He actually went to his place of business at Black and addressed it there. So if he came out his mouth wrong and called her out her name, that wouldn't have went good at all. That was just not. So I agree with Marcel. He went at Courtney because that's the way he wanted to do it. So there's that. So Marceau says, "Well, going forward, I'm just going to ignore everything that you say." And she said, "Well, don't ignore me." Stormy's like, "No, there's no need to ignore me." She said, "That's why pointing to Letitia, that's why she got a drink thrown in her face." And Letitia was like, "Well, why did I get a drink thrown in my face?" And she said, "Because you was annoying the hell out of Kiki." And she said, "Well, that's not fair." She said, "That's not a reason to throw a drink in somebody's face because they're ignoring you because they're trying to protect their peace." She said, "No, I'm not saying that was the reason, but that's why she did it." And it is. It is why she did it, whether it was wrong or not. She threw the drink in her face because it was triggering her that Marceau and Keith, I don't even think that they would even look at her to even acknowledge that she was even there. It was like she was not even there. She would say stuff. They didn't look up. They didn't even pay any attention to her. It was like she did not exist. I remember Marceau looking down at his car with a cigar hanging out his mouth, and he never even looked up. And she was saying all kinds of stuff about him. And he never even acknowledged her. And it triggered her. That's why she threw the drink. See this? I bet you they saw that. That type of thing. So it is the reason why she got a drink pulled in her face. But anywho, so Marceau, leave it to Marceau. And I, because they were both wrong on both sides in this particular filming segment with the pool at the pool hall. Because Marceau comes back and he goes, "Well, in your culture, you know, you always say that word is used." He said, "I don't have time to learn other adult culture." And it stung. That stung. But at the same time, I remember Stormy saying, "I've been a bee since I was 4." What? So you mean to tell me you referenced yourself as a bee since you were 4 years old? So that is how she grew up thinking of herself? That means your mother must have called you that, "You little bee," allegedly. I don't know. But she did say that in one of the episodes in the past about how she's been a bee since she was 4 years old. And he basically said, And your culture, when he said that, her thing was like, you could see her whole face drain, like, okay, this is it. I'm not even going there because, and she was packing up her pool stick. And Courtney said, well, is you gonna finish playing the game? And she was like, no, I got work to do. She started undoing her pool stick and putting it in the case. And she's just like, uh, you did invite us to this date night that went left, horribly left. I'm curious on how that's gonna pick up. I'm assuming when Kiki made a comment about Letitia and the website and everything like that. I remember Stormy making a comment on the website too on social media, and it came across like she was on Kiki's side, or whoever made the comment about the website having the wrong disclaimer on it. What is it? The return policy or whatever whatever it was that they added to the website. And Stormy was coming from a place like, yeah, that wasn't right. So this segment must have already happened when that uh came up. Anywho, that's all that was to this segment. You know, they pick up next week where Kimmy and Maurice see a sex therapist. You know, I really don't care about Kimmy and Maurice sex issues. Let's see some clients. If you are a lawyer, let's see some clients. Can we get that? Can we get that part of your life? Can you show us that? Where's Monster? Does Monster still live with you? What's going on with you? Are you spending more time with him? Tell us how you're doing that. You know, are you going to his games? Are you helping with his homework? Can we see that dynamic? Like this sex X sex topic is not the move. We are tired of this. Please move on. Please move on. Anyway, that's all I got, y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe. If there are any other beginner YouTubers out there that want to collaborate on things, I am all for it. Please reach out. Leave something in the comments and let me know. There's a lot I need to still learn. I'm new to this thing, and I just want to, dip my toe in the content creator world. So again, any new beginner, even if you're experienced, give me some pointers, some tips. Bring me on your broadcast, podcast, whatever. I'm all for it. Just let me know. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. And all you all have a great day.